From the cradle of civilization to the towering empires that once ruled the earth, history is written in the blood, love, and ambition of those who dared to shape it. These are not just stories of kings and queens. They are tales of dreams built in gold and destroyed in fire, of alliances sealed with love and shattered by betrayal, of battles that decided the fate of millions, and whispers that changed the course of nations. Today, we journey beyond the dusty pages of the past to relive the greatest stories of the ancient world, where every triumph had a cost, and every fall left a lesson carved into eternity. The rise and fall of legends is the heartbeat of the ancient world, a rhythm that echoes through every stone ruin, every faded scroll, and every whispered myth that has survived the passage of centuries. In the dawn of civilization, men and women were not merely leaders. They were visionaries, conquerors, and, in the eyes of their people, living gods. Their names carried the weight of nations. Their decisions could bring prosperity or plunge entire realms into ruin. We remember them not only for the power they wielded, but for the mark they left on the tapestry of time. From the fertile plains of Mesopotamia to the golden sands of Egypt, from the marble cities of Greece to the vast domains of Persia, the world watched the rise of rulers whose ambition was as boundless as the horizon. They dreamed of empires that would last forever. Yet the truth of history is a cruel one. No crown is eternal, no throne unshakable. In the stories of these rulers, we find patterns that repeat like the cycles of the moon. They begin with promise. A young prince ascending the throne, a visionary queen uniting a fractured kingdom, a warrior king rallying his people against impossible odds. Their early reigns are often filled with courage, wisdom, and a sense of destiny. They build roads that bind their lands together, erect temples to honor their gods, and pass laws that bring justice to their people. The people sing their names in praise, believing they are blessed by divine favor. But as the seasons turn and the years pass, the weight of power begins to change even the noblest hearts. Ambition whispers in the darkness, greed takes root in the corridors of palaces, and trust is traded for fear. The same hands that once lifted the crown with reverence may clutch it too tightly, unwilling to let go. For every rise there is a fall, and the ancient world offers no shortage of tragic endings. Mighty rulers who once commanded the loyalty of thousands found themselves betrayed by their closest allies. Cities that had been symbols of strength were reduced to ashes by the fires of invasion. Dynasties crumbled, not always from the spears of enemies, but from the poison of corruption within. And yet, it is in these falls that the legends truly take shape, for the end of a reign does not erase its story. The ruins of Babylon still speak of Nebuchadnezzar's grandeur, even as they stand as a reminder that all empires are mortal. The tomb of Tutankhamun still captures the world's imagination, even though his dynasty faded long ago. The shattered statues of Ozymandias warn us that pride and power are fleeting, but their broken forms still inspire awe. The rise and fall of these figures is more than a sequence of events. It is a mirror held up to human nature. We see in them our own hopes and flaws, magnified by the scale of their power. We learn that leadership demands wisdom as much as strength, that unity is as fragile as it is precious, and that the choices of one individual can change the fate of millions. These ancient rulers lived in a world without the safety nets we take for granted today. Their successes were monumental, their failures catastrophic. They gambled with history itself, and though time has stripped away their crowns, their stories endure. They remind us that greatness is never guaranteed, that every empire carries within it the seeds of its own decline, and that the only immortality a ruler can truly hope for is to be remembered. Not just for the victories they claimed, but for the lessons they left behind. Power, passion, and treachery were the driving forces behind some of the most unforgettable tales in the ancient world. In an age where the fate of nations often rested in the hands of a single ruler, decisions were rarely guided by reason alone. Desire, ambition, and betrayal intertwined to shape events more than any law or tradition could. Power was the ultimate prize, a crown that brought not only authority but also danger. To wear it meant living in constant vigilance, surrounded by allies whose loyalty could fade with the shift of a shadow. In the courts of ancient kings and queens, whispered words could be more lethal than drawn swords, and love could be as dangerous as open war. History is filled with moments where passion altered the destiny of entire empires. It might be the burning affection between a ruler and a foreign queen that sealed an alliance, or tore a nation apart. Cleopatra of Egypt and Julius Caesar of Rome were bound by more than politics. Theirs was a union of ambition and attraction, each seeing in the other a path to greater power. Yet such entanglements came with peril, for every show of affection could be seen as a political move, and every gesture of love could ignite jealousy among rivals. The heart, in the ancient world, was rarely free from the weight of the throne. Treachery, too, was an ever-present shadow. No empire, no matter how vast, was immune to it. In the halls of power, loyalty was a currency, and it could be bought, traded, or stolen. A trusted general could become a conspirator. A beloved family member could become the architect of a ruler's downfall. The Roman Senate, for all its talk of honor and duty, harbored men who would plunge knives into the very leader who had lifted them to prominence. In the Persian courts, lavish feasts and warm welcomes could hide the cold calculations of those plotting in secret chambers. The closer one was to power, the greater the temptation to seize it. What makes these stories compelling is the way power and passion often work together to create either unity or disaster. A ruler's love for a spouse could inspire great works, monuments built in their honor, cities founded to carry their name. But it could also lead to ruin when decisions were made for the sake of the heart, rather than the stability of the realm. Likewise, treachery was often born from passion, envy of another's influence, resentment of being passed over, or the bitter sting of betrayal in love. The line between personal grievance and political conspiracy was thin, and in the ancient world, crossing it often meant blood would be spilled. And yet, for all its dangers, power remained irresistible. The thrones of ancient kingdoms were never empty for long, for there was always another claimant ready to risk everything to sit upon them. Wars were fought over love as much as over territory, and alliances were formed not just by treaties, but by marriages, affairs, and whispered promises. The ancient world understood that the human heart was as potent a weapon as any spear or sword, a ruler who could inspire devotion in their people, whether through charisma, romance, or shared ambition, held an advantage that armies alone could not match. In the end, the stories of power, passion, and treachery remind us that history is not shaped by cold strategy alone. It is driven by the same emotions that govern us today: love, envy, desire, and fear, but magnified by the stakes of ruling empires. The ancient rulers who navigated this dangerous web either secured their place in history through brilliance and cunning, or fell victim to the same passions they once wielded as tools of influence. Their lives were a dance on the edge of a blade, where every step could be their greatest triumph or their final mistake, and it is this blend of grandeur and vulnerability that keeps their stories alive, resonating across thousands of years as both a warning and a wonder. From thrones to ruins, it is the inevitable journey of every kingdom, every empire, and every ruler who once believed their power would outlast the ages. In the ancient world, thrones were not merely chairs of authority, they were symbols of divine favor, of destiny fulfilled, of a ruler's place in the order of the universe. To ascend to the throne was to stand at the pinnacle of human achievement, commanding armies, wealth, and the loyalty of millions. Yet, as the centuries have shown, the splendor of such power is as fragile as it is dazzling. What stands proud one generation may lie broken in the next, and the monuments built to proclaim eternal glory often become the gravestones of forgotten dreams. The journey from throne to ruin was rarely a sudden fall. It began in small, almost invisible cracks, a weakened economy after years of war, a famine that strained the patience of the people, a rival kingdom waiting for the moment to strike. The ruler, once celebrated, began to face murmurs of discontent. The marble halls that had echoed with cheers now whispered with doubt. Advisors who once bowed in loyalty began to question the wisdom of their sovereign. These were the quiet beginnings of the collapse, the moments that seemed trivial at the time, but, in hindsight, were the first tremors before the earthquake. History is filled with the remains of once mighty thrones, the majestic palaces of Babylon, where kings declared themselves chosen by the gods, now stand as little more than wind-swept ruins. The golden capitals of the Hittites, once teeming with life, are now scattered stones studied by archaeologists. The Colosseum in Rome, though still awe-inspiring, is but a shadow of the empire that built it. The transition from throne to ruin is not only a matter of conquest. Often it is a result of a slow decay from within. Corruption, complacency, and the erosion of unity can dismantle an empire as surely as any invading army. And yet, these ruins are not merely relics of failure. They are storytellers. A broken wall still speaks of the hands that built it, the battles it withstood, and the day it finally fell. A toppled statue carries within its cracks the story of a ruler's ambitions, and the moment those ambitions crumbled. To stand among the ruins of ancient civilizations is to hear the echo of their former glory, a reminder that nothing in the realm of man is permanent, yet everything leaves a trace. Even the dust of a fallen throne can inspire awe, curiosity, and caution in those who follow. What is most striking is how often the fall of a throne seemed unimaginable in its time. To the subjects of an empire at its height, the ruler appeared invincible, the realm eternal. Few could imagine that the walls would one day be breached, that the royal banners would be torn down, that the very heart of their civilization would beat no more. But history teaches us that power has a cycle. It rises, it reigns, and it fades. The forces that bring a ruler to greatness, ambition, conquest, and expansion, can also lead to overreach, exhaustion, and eventual collapse. From thrones to ruins, the lesson is as old as civilization itself. No matter how high the climb, the ground is always waiting. Yet within that truth lies a paradox. Even in their ruin, these ancient thrones continue to hold power. They shape our understanding of the past, influence our vision of leadership, and remind us that while no empire can escape the passage of time, its story can live on, inspiring or warning those who dare to seek power again. And so, as the wind carries the dust of fallen kings across the silent remains of their kingdoms, we are left with the enduring truth. The throne may be gone, but the legacy remains, carved into the stones of history. The ancient world was built on secrets, not just the whispered intrigues of courts and palaces, but the hidden knowledge, lost technologies, and forgotten truths that once shaped civilizations. Beneath the sands of Egypt, beneath the ruins of Mesopotamia, beneath the jungles that have swallowed forgotten cities, lie answers to questions we are still asking today. How did the architects of the pyramids align their colossal monuments with the stars so perfectly, without the tools we rely on now? How did traders from distant lands cross oceans and deserts long before the age of maps and compasses? And what stories were etched into scrolls and tablets that have crumbled into dust, taking their wisdom with them? The ancient world, for all its visible ruins, holds more mysteries than certainties, and each discovery seems to deepen the questions rather than answer them. Some of these secrets were guarded jealously in their own time. In temples and royal courts, knowledge was a form of power. Priests, scholars, and advisors often held the keys to understanding the movements of the heavens, the rhythms of the seasons, or the art of healing. To possess such knowledge was to influence kings and shape nations. The ability to predict an eclipse, for example, could be used to awe the people or sway the decisions of rulers. Knowledge was currency, and those who held it understood that to share it freely was to risk diminishing their own influence. And so, much of the wisdom of the ancient world was hidden behind the walls of privilege, passed down only to a chosen few. Other secrets have survived in fragments, like pieces of a great mosaic we can only partially see. Archaeologists uncover clay tablets inscribed with cuneiform, but many are broken, leaving the story incomplete. Ancient inscriptions weathered by centuries of wind and rain offer tantalizing clues, but stop short of revealing their full meaning. Even great monuments hold mysteries. The purpose of Stonehenge, the function of the Nazca lines, the engineering feats of Machu Picchu, all continue to inspire theories but resist definitive answers. For every ancient city we have found, there are others still hidden, buried under earth, ice, or sea, waiting to speak after thousands of years of silence. The secrets of the ancient world are not limited to technology or architecture. They are also found in the human heart. Myths, legends, and epic tales often carry truths disguised as stories, lessons on morality, leadership, and human nature preserved in symbolic form. These were not mere entertainments for their time, but vessels of cultural memory, shaped to carry meaning across generations. The Epic of Gilgamesh, for example, is more than a heroic adventure. It is a reflection on mortality, friendship, and the search for meaning, themes as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. Ancient wisdom often survives in these forms, even when the historical details have been lost. Perhaps what makes the secrets of the ancient world so powerful is the way they blur the line between fact and myth. We may never know the exact truth behind every mystery, and yet the search itself drives us to learn more about who we are and where we come from. Every excavation, every deciphered text, every artifact pulled from the earth is a reminder that the past is not silent. It speaks to those willing to listen. But it also withholds its deepest truths, perhaps forever, and in that there is a certain beauty. For even as we reconstruct history piece by piece, the unknown will always remain, keeping the ancient world alive, not just in our knowledge, but in our imagination. The secrets they left behind are both a challenge and an invitation. A challenge to uncover what has been lost, and an invitation to dream about what still lies hidden beneath the sands of time. Love and war, two forces that have shaped the destiny of nations as much as any law, invention, or ruler's decree. In the ancient world, they were not opposites, but often partners, weaving together the fates of empires and the lives of those who led them. Love could unite kingdoms as surely as it could destroy them, while war could both tear lovers apart and bind allies in a brotherhood of survival. Across centuries, these twin forces danced through history, leaving behind stories that are as human as they are monumental. In the courts of the ancient world, love was rarely a private matter. Royal marriages were as much about diplomacy as affection, designed to seal treaties, strengthen alliances, or end generations of bloodshed. A wedding could mean peace between rival nations. A rejection could mean the drums of war. Consider the marriage of Alexander the Great to Roxana, a princess from a conquered land. Their union was both a symbol of love and a strategic move to unite Macedonian and Persian cultures. Yet not all such unions ended in harmony. When love defied political strategy, it could ignite disaster. The fabled romance of Paris and Helen of Troy, whether legend or truth, speaks to this power. A single affair sparking a decade-long war that would burn cities to the ground and become immortal in myth. War, in turn, was often fought with the language of love and loyalty. Soldiers pledged their lives not only to their leaders, but to their families waiting at home, to the land that held their memories, to the ideals they cherished. In ancient Sparta, warriors went to battle wearing tokens from loved ones, reminders of what they fought to protect. Love was the ember that kept courage alive in the darkest hours of war. Yet war also tested love, forcing long separations, breeding uncertainty, and sometimes leaving only grief in its wake. Letters from ancient battlefields, scratched on tablets or whispered to messengers, tell of longing, promises to return, and fears that the tide of battle might break those vows forever. There were also times when love itself became a weapon in the arsenal of war. Seduction could be a strategy, luring enemies into traps or undermining their resolve. Queens and courtesans sometimes wielded charm more effectively than armies, turning the hearts of leaders and steering the course of conflicts without ever lifting a sword. In such cases, victory was not measured in captured cities, but in captured loyalties. But love and war were not always tangled in tragedy. They could inspire acts of beauty and honor that outlasted the chaos of their age. Monuments were built to honor both victories and the loved ones lost to battle. The Taj Mahal, though from a later period, echoes this same ancient impulse to turn grief into grandeur, to let love stand as a testament long after the war drums have faded. In the ruins of ancient civilizations, archaeologists still find tokens of affection buried alongside weapons, as if to say that even in death, love refused to be separated from the violence of the world. Through the centuries, the stories of love and war in the ancient world remind us that these forces are deeply intertwined. Love has the power to end wars or start them. War can destroy love or make it endure with unshakable strength. Together, they shaped the choices of rulers and the fate of commoners alike. They are the eternal human constants, the same emotions that move us today, magnified by the high stakes of ancient kingdoms. And so, when we look back at history, we find that behind every battle map and every royal decree, there is almost always a human heart, beating with longing loyalty and the fierce desire to claim something worth fighting for. From the rise and fall of legends to the whispers of ancient secrets, from thrones that once stood unshakable to the ruins that now lie silent, history is a vast canvas painted with power, passion, treachery, love, and war. The ancient world was not just a time of stone walls and golden crowns. It was a stage upon which humanity played out its greatest ambitions and its deepest flaws. Every empire, no matter how mighty, carried within it the seeds of its own decline. Every ruler, no matter how wise, was still human, driven by the same hopes, fears, and desires that live within us today. The ruins we see now are not merely remnants of the past, they are messages sent across centuries. They remind us that power is temporary, but the stories we leave behind can endure forever. The passions that sparked alliances, the betrayals that shattered them, the wars fought for love, and the love that survived wars. These are the threads that still bind us to those who lived thousands of years ago. We study these ancient stories not just to marvel at what was built, but to understand what it means to be human. They teach us that greatness is fragile, that unity is precious, and that even in the face of inevitable change, our choices echo far beyond our own time. The kings and queens, the warriors and dreamers, the lovers and traitors, they are gone, but their voices still speak, and as long as we listen, the ancient world will never truly be lost.